Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about a special SQL keyword near and dear to my heart. It is called distinct. After today's lesson, you will know what the distinct keyword will do in your query and how it can be really helpful. Distinct will typically go right after the word select, and what it does will remove any duplicate rows in the result set. So if there is a row where all of the values are the same as a different row, one of the rows will be totally removed. This may not seem like a really helpful keyword yet because we haven't seen too many result sets with duplicate rows, partly because of how our database was designed and partly because of the queries we've been writing so far. But in this lesson, we will show you how distinct can be super helpful. So let's take a look at the party cost details table. There is a column that stores cost type. Like if the cost that Cinderella spent for the party was for invitations or balloons or desserts and so on, it would be recorded here. For every new party cost, a new row will be added into the table with the cost amount, cost type, and seller. Let's pretend Cinderella didn't want all of the details of all of the costs, but she just wanted a list of all of the cost types for her parties. To get Cinderella that list of cost types, you might write a query like this. Select cost type from party cost details, order by cost type. Now this is just the first page of the result set, and there would be likely many more pages of results. But are you noticing anything? Let's take a look at another page of the results from the query. Here is the next page in the result set. Noticing anything here? Let's look at one more page of the result set. Notice anything here? We could keep going as there are pages and pages of results, but we'll stop for now. You may have noticed that the list does give the cost types that Cinderella is after, but there are a ton of duplicate rows. If you handed this result set off to Cinderella or the data analyst dwarves, they'd have to spend some time removing all the duplicates to get a nice, easy to read list of cost types. Now, before we talk about how to easily fix this and give Cinderella a list of cost types without any duplicate rows, let's spend a moment and see why this duplication is happening. Let's revamp our query to pull all columns and rows back from the table using our star keyword. Here is the first page of our result set, and we are seeing all of the details for each cost. See how there are multiple rows where the cost type is balloons, but besides the cost type and sometimes the seller, none of the information is duplicated? So in our query, where we are only pulling cost types, we are pulling back each of the rows. That is why there are so many rows of each cost type, even though we only want one. So how do we get Cinderella her nice list with no duplicates? We can use that distinct keyword we mentioned earlier. So we put the distinct right after the word select and before the column names. For this example, we'll just look at the cost type of balloons and see how the distinct affects the number of rows returned. Our new result set would only bring back one row for the balloon cost type, this time because distinct removed all of the duplicate rows. So let's remove the condition on cost type equaling balloons and see what would happen to our results. Instead of a huge list of duplicate cost types, we would have that nice clean list of cost types that we could hand off to Cinderella. Now on to another example of how distinct may be of use in your SQL career. We'll use the subject table as an example and subject 18 as our example subject. Here we have a query that will pull every row from the subject table for subject 18. Subject 18 only has one row in the subjects table. We can see Clara's current information, but we cannot see a record of any changes made to her record. It is possible Clara may have moved, changed names, became inactive and active, but the subjects table is designed to update any information and not insert new rows for new information. This is something Cinderella, Kathy, and Penny decided would be best for their needs. So Clara's row and all of the other subjects have their single row updated each time a change is entered. a new row is not added. However, many times database tables are designed a bit differently. Every time a change occurs, rather than updating the row, a new row is entered. Tables designed in this way will likely have a column that shows the sequence of the change or the effective date of the change, so you can know which change is current. So let's pretend the subjects table was designed this way, where a new row of data was inserted for every update to the data in the row. If we wrote a similar query that hit this table, how would the results set look for subject ID 18? You'll see now that instead of one row, we have 3 rows. We have a row for Clara with an effective date of 2/1/1980, which is the same date as she was born, so this is her very first row. Notice she has a different last name. We have another row for Clara with an effective date of 10/1/1990. It looks almost exactly the same as the previous row, but the address is different, so Clara must have moved. Lastly, we have a row with an effective date of 7/7/2005. In this row, the address is different and Clara's last name is different, so it looks like Clara may have gotten married. So if the table was designed like this, and we wrote a simple query like this, selecting subject ID from the subjects table, where subject ID equals 18, do you think there would be any duplicate rows? There certainly would be. This query is pulling back the subject ID for each row Clara has in the database. So we could add in the distinct keyword. Now how many rows do you think we would get back? Ta-da, a single row, because that distinct removed all of the duplicate rows. What do you think would happen if we added in Clara's first name and last name to this query with the distinct after the select? Do you think we would get a single row returned, or 3 rows returned, or something else entirely? We would actually return 2 rows, because one row will have the last name of Van Nostrum and one row will have the last name of Pennypacker. So they're duplicate in subject ID and first name, but the last names are different, so distinct wouldn't remove the second row with Clara Pennypacker. So now we have seen what the distinct keyword does and how it can be helpful. It's time for an activity and then on to the next lesson, where we will get into the very big topic of bringing in data from multiple tables.